Well, I think the first impact we really had was our COVID reporting because we obviously launched at the start of the pandemic, and some of the stories we were reporting in Mississippi wound up informing people throughout the rest of the country what was, coming their way at various points.
What medical providers were going through, what people were experiencing, and I feel like I've had the freedom and the support necessary to follow through with all of the consequences and realities of COVID-19 in a way that I really do feel has been impactful. And following that through the years of the pandemic has been something that I'm really proud of.
And so we ended up actually growing a really large audience both in Mississippi and out of Mississippi pretty quickly, just because of the impact of some of our COVID work. We got worldwide, a little bit of worldwide recognition for some of that work. In that first year, we had the Black Lives Matter movement, which really took off after George Floyd's death. And we saw that in Mississippi. We saw marches and protests and demonstrations all that summer. And we saw ultimately the state flag changed finally from the old Confederate themed state flag to the one we have now. We've had several is kind of understating. We've had a lot of stories that have gotten national attention. We had last year Nick Juden's stories on the Ridgeland Library,
which was when the city of Ridgeland was threatening to withhold funding from a public library system because they carried materials that had LGBTQ folks in it. And I think if we hadn't covered that story, then the library may have, in many ways, have been forced to acquiesce and remove those materials that were so important to young people to see someone that looked like them.
The water crisis series was very impactful because, number one, the time that it happened, after the pandemic, I feel like a lot of people who are not into journalism, who are not into politics, they had time to really figure out how these things are impacting them and how, because it came to their home. COVID came to people's homes. The water crisis came to people's homes. And so I feel like us doing that in-depth history answered a lot of questions that people were mulling over.
When we started covering the immediate realities of it, we saw we had all this national attention. We saw that people were finally aware of what was going on in Jackson. But what I said at the time was, this issue didn't begin when the freeze came in, and it's not going to be over when water is restored. We've been really fortunate to have partners like ProPublica who have seen the efforts that we've gone to really dig out that context and stay true to these topics. We're really lucky, and I consider myself very lucky to have that opportunity.
At the Mississippi Free Press, when we say systems reporting or systemic reporting, we call it, it's truth-telling in a way that journalism has never done here about the systems. We believe very strongly that journalism and the kinds of storytelling and fact-finding, kind of fearless reporting that we do can inspire all sorts of people in different communities and counties across the state to kind of rise up, work together, be inspired by each other, have the conversations that so many people have never had.
We need more resources to help with so that we can cover a wider range of issues come election time. And in Mississippi, of course, there are elections every single year of some variety, whether it's local elections or congressional elections or a presidential year or statewide. They're all separate. So it's ongoing. It's never going to stop. We just want to be able to cover more issues.
With more resources, we can hire more Native Mississippians and folks who love Mississippi and do our part to fight the brain drain.
When we ask people to support MFP journalism, we are asking for them to support county level systemic reporting And the people who do it, it is resource intensive because we can't sit here in a newsroom in Jackson and do this kind of reporting. And that takes time, it takes gas money, it takes resources. But we see it, especially young journalists are just blown away by the concept that they can do this kind of journalism. And so we ask our readers on a regular basis, support our systemic journalism. When we do that, we will really, truly see the impact on Mississippi and then the other states that follow our model.